Coverage.com, getting you ready for Super Bowl 57. And of course, we got to bring in the big guns for the big game. We're talking to Tom the Hitman, professional sports bettor. He's got 3 bets here, early bets for Super Bowl 57. Tom, why don't you get us started? There's a player prop for the Eagles that you're looking at.
Yeah, so I like Miles Sanders to go over 57.5 rushing yards. And a lot of it is the fact that we're getting a discount based off what has happened the last 2 weeks. And what has exactly happened the last 2 weeks in their playoff games? Miles Sanders got 28 carries. So it's around 14 carries. That's what his over-under is for this game. But where did those carries come? 23 of them came in the first half for Miles Sanders, only 5 in the second half. And the reason for that is because they had such insurmountable leads at those points that they really didn't have much incentive to use them. So obviously in this game, we have a spread that's pretty close to pick 'em. Nobody's expecting that the Eagles are just going to blow out the Chiefs. It probably is going to be a game that they're going to be running their normal offense into the fourth quarter. So I think that we could get a lot more Sanders usage in this game. And then in the matchup, Kansas City, they're 19th in yards per carry allowed to opposing running backs this year. So you would look at that and be like, all right, they're middle of the pack, maybe very slightly worse. But that was against the second easiest schedule of opposing rush offenses this season. So now you got a matchup where you're facing one of the best rushing offenses in the league. So I think that Miles Sanders over 57.5 rush yards has some value this week.
All right, so now we turn our attention to the Chiefs and perhaps the biggest star of Super Bowl 57, Patrick Mahomes. What do you like with his props?
I like Mahomes over 289.5 passing yards. Now, we had this last week on this show as well, and I was saying that, I think Mahomes is a lot more healthier than the market is thinking. And if that's the case, we have some value because when he was accounted to be fully healthy in the Jacksonville game, his over-under was 310.5. Against the Raiders the week before, bad pass defense, but it was 320.5 in that game. So now we're getting this line at 289.5. We're getting a little bit of a discount, but he has 2 weeks to even further recover from that ankle injury. And he looked pretty good last week as well. And then we have the fact that the Eagles, you could say, well, you know what? They're a good pass defense. So we're going to say that the matchup is the reason why the number is so low. Well, they're a good D, don't get me wrong, but they're not as elite. Some of their metrics would indicate. Against top half of the league offenses, they're 27th in success rate. They're 19th in pass EPA per play allowed. And Mahomes had a really big game last week against a good Bengals defense. Remember, that was with his top 3 receivers hurt for this game. Expect at least 2 of them back in this game. And I think that we have some value on Mahomes over 289.5 passing yards.
All right, and we have seen the Eagles against some good passing offenses give up a lot of points and a lot of yards. And finally, we're going to put a bow on today's picks. What's the spread pick here that you like early on?
You just mentioned that the Eagles' pass defense was giving up points against some better offenses. Yeah, against teams that are top half in the league in offense, they're 30th in points per game allowed. The only thing is they haven't faced many of those offenses because the Eagles, if they win, they'll have the 4th easiest schedule of a Super Bowl champion of all time. And they had the easiest schedule in the NFL this year. So while I do believe, obviously, that they're a good team, they have a very good roster, I think that they just might be a little bit overvalued in market due to their schedule this year. And, the Chiefs have had a superior power rating throughout the entire season. There really wasn't one point this year where we were saying, the Eagles are a superior power rated team to the Chiefs. And it was indicative of that in the markets. The market power ratings as well had the Chiefs as the better team. And this is really the first week that we're saying the Eagles are better. I mean, and I'm just asking why. Is it because the Eagles ran through their 2 opponents in the division on the conference championship round? Yes, it's impressive, but you faced the Giants team, really didn't belong to be there. You faced the Niners team that did not have a quarterback. The Eagles had under 4 yards per play in that game against the Niners. So it's not exactly like their offense lit the world on fire. I'm not sure that Jalen Hurts is 100% yet. So long story for me to say, rarely you get value in the Super Bowl spread. It's usually an efficient market. But I think that there's outside chance that not outside chance. I think there's a decent chance the Chiefs could close maybe 1-point favorites in this game. So I like the Chiefs as an underdog price. So give me Kansas City plus 1.5.
All right. It warms my heart because I have KC +2 and thought exactly the same thing. We saw look ahead lines for this thing before championship weekend. Kansas City -1. We saw some books open Kansas City as high as -1.5. I too think the market does swing back towards Kansas City, especially if Mahomes is an underdog out there and a lot of public players going to be coming in next week. I think we're going to see a lot of KC money.
Agreed.
Yeah. All right, that's Tom the Hitman with 3 picks for Super Bowl 57.